Okay, I'm going to do a quick little video about debugging with multiple serial ports. Just doing this quickly because I keep forgetting how to do it, and I thought a video would be useful. I've got a Kahoot H7 Mini set up, and you can see from Device Manager it's on COM3. And if I reboot it and start again, you'll see. I started mavproxy. Now, the interesting thing to note is these red messages. These are the hal console. So these are the hal console messages, and the hal console messages always go to the console, which is this slot 0. Basically, you can see the HWDEF for this board here, and you can see in slot 0 is OTG1, which refers to the USB port. So the hal console messages always go to the first slot in this list, and in this case, that's the USB port. Okay, so all well and good. So the first thing I'm going to do is add another serial port. So USB port, in fact. So this is an H7, so it actually has two USB ports, two endpoints. So if I add OTG2 to this HWDEF, you see this is serial order. I've added this in the serial 5 slot, OTG2. And I'll do a quick reconfigure and compile and upload, which should just take a minute. And I can show that going on while it's compiling. Shouldn't take that long, thanks to the magic of C cache. Upload. Done. Okay, so I'll hide the console. So now, interesting thing, you can see now in Device Manager, there are now two endpoints, and it says mavlink COM45, SLCAN COM44. It's not actually SLCAN, that's just hard to find for the label. But if I start up mavproxy, I can connect it to TTY45. This is me connecting it to TTY45, and if I reboot and start again, you'll see that I still have the little red messages coming up here. Okay, so that's still the regular USB port. Okay, but if I connect to 44, which is the new USB port I connected to. So first thing to note is mavproxy still works. Yay, that's really nice. If I reboot, reconnect, you'll see none of those red messages. I mean, there's the ones related to APM, but not the hal console messages. So the hal console messages are not appearing on this endpoint because it's not the first one in the list. Okay, so that's quite cool. So the next thing is, what happens if USB is not working? Okay, so what you can do is you can actually connect via a serial port. So if I dig this out, unplug this. Okay, so what you can see is here's my Kahoot H7 Mini. And what I've done is I've wired up serial RX and TX4 to the RX and TX pins on an FTDI connector. Okay, so remember that that was RX serial, RxTX4 on there, so I'll plug it back in. Okay, so plug back in. Now, thing to note is that, so I've got these ports again. So my FTDI connector is on USB serial port 37 here. And if you remember, that was RxTX4, which is serial 4. So if I fire up mavproxy again, do so console here. 145. Make sure the console can be seen. Okay. Oops, not that one. There we go. Okay, so you can see connected there. So let's just have a look at serial 4. Oops. Show serial 4. So I've got serial 4 board set to 57K and it's set to mavproxy. And if I, what I've done, I probably won't show on here because yeah, it's a pop-up. So I brought up the settings on the serial port and I've made sure that the port settings are set to the same baud rate, so 57600. And what I can then do is, so I have to use Windows mavproxy because there's some weird thing with WSL2, but let's bring the console back up here. The console. And just show you okay, so here is my Windows mavproxy window, which looks totally normal, but it is actually running against the serial port UART4 on the FTDI connector, which is great. So I can actually talk to the flight controller over a serial port rather than over USB. So this is quite nice because what it means I can do is then, if I want to do something like BL heli pass-through, I can do that on the USB connector, but I can still see, sorry, I can do that using this connector, but I can still see messages on the USB. So, so what I'm going to do, let's just demonstrate that now. So I close mavproxy. Oops, too many windows disappearing. Okay, so it's this one now, isn't it? Which you can see. Okay, so I'm going to start up mavproxy again. Okay, so I'm connected to mavproxy. So if you remember, so I've got two USB ports and one serial port using FTDI. So what I'm going to do is set up the FTDI port as my BL heli serial pass-through port. So if I have a look at you can see there the parameters. So the parameter I'm going to change is servo BLH port. So this is set to 0, which by default means the console. Now, This is a little bit confusing. So you want this to actually be the serial number, but it's not. It's actually the sequence of Maverick link enabled channels. So if I look at the protocol for all of the serial ports here, oops, can't type. So you can see that serial protocol 2 is Mavlink. So you can see that, and I want serial port 4, and you can see that that is the 0, 1, 2. Got to skip over that one because that's GCS 3. So that's the third, the index number 3, counting from 0. Really confusing to make serial port 4. So I've got to set servo BOH port 23. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Might be a bit confusing. I'm just going to reboot. Good luck. And I can reconnect. Okay, you can see BLHeli there. So let's get BLHeli suite up, and easier to do. There we go. Okay, so there's BLHeli suite, and you can see I'm going to connect to port 37, and it's got to be at the right baud rate, so 57,600. So I'm going to connect to that. Not quite sure where my cursor is going like that, but anyway. Okay, and that has connected. And then I read the setup. See, it's flashing away. And it wasn't very happy about that. Oh, that's because the ESC is not powered on. So let me just disconnect. Power up. ESC. Okay, so the battery's connected to the power now. Gosh, that is really confusing, isn't it? Let me bring this to the okay, BLHeli suite, not very happy about that. Sorry, something to do with very strange. Something to do with the way the window is fitted. Completely lost BLHeli suite now. Try this again. BLHeli suite. No. Okay, you have to take my word for it. Right, so I'm going to connect that. It's connecting away. You can't see it. And when I read the setup, this time it works. Brilliant. All right, so so that's all well and good. So I think the next interesting thing is we can do things a different way here. So we can actually, if we wanted to, we could switch. So the next thing I'm going to show you is we can change where print messages go to. So if I've got my HWDEF here, and what I can do is I can set stood out serial and stood out baud rate. So you can see these two here, stood out serial. So what I've set this stood out serial is set to SD4, which stands for serial device 4. And so that number 4 needs to match the UART I'm using, which is UART4. And then the baud rate needs to be set correctly. And I can reconfigure. Okay, and I can fire up mavproxy on Windows again, and you can see that. And what we should find, so if I connect another mavproxy to there you go. So you can see that there's a few, so I rebooted it on the other mavproxy, and you can just see there's a few printf statements here. So these are actually in the code. I haven't got an example, but it's if someone just basically put printf like that to stood out, that will now come out on the serial port as I've defined there. And that's it. I found a few things that didn't quite work, but for the most part, it seems to work well.